you get a lot of people in through the door, but do you get them staying for the entire experience, which I don't think is the case with Cold War. So in that sense, yes, it is failing.
In that last clip, Lex is talking about a possible reason as to why the Cold War Zombies community feels so desolate despite the gameplay being so fresh and innovative. And I think there are a variety of reasons that people don't play Cold War Zombies consistently, and in today's video I wanted to focus on trying to solve one of them, or at least say how I would have done it differently. And honestly, I think that this one change would have drastically increased the longevity of the game, especially during the long and arduous stretches of time where there are no new maps. And I am of course talking about the skills progression system, or the system that you use to upgrade your ammo mods, your special abilities, your weapon classes, and your perks. This is something that I haven't seen anybody else talking about, and it's surprising because it was something that I was low-key worried about since the start of the game, because when I first heard about how we were going to permanently unlock upgrades to our perks, special abilities, and weapons, it just sounded like a lot of fun. And it sounded like something that could show off your playtime and your skill, kind of like the prestige systems. But that's not what we got, is it? We instead got a system where it doesn't really matter whether you use the perks, abilities, weapon classes, because it uses a currency that rewards you simply for getting to high enough rounds, or exfilling, and that only takes 2 rounds to fully upgrade new additions. And I'm not saying that it's an entirely bad system, because I did have fun with it. I just think that it could have been implemented in a way better way to make the game more replayable. Because Cold War Zombies is at its funnest when you're upgrading all of these sandbox elements. And just for proof, I'm going to use my own playtime here. So here is the level that I got to in all of the seasons, and as you can see, Season 2 is where I played the most. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that during that season, the 4th and 5th skill tiers were added to all perks, weapon classes, ammo mods, and field upgrades. I'm telling you, the game is most fun when you're constantly upgrading all of your tools. But they can't just keep adding new tiers every once in a while to keep the player base entertained, can they? So how do we actually make it so that the system entices people to play for longer? Or not just longer, but stay in the community and be active in the game? Well, I would keep the 5 tiers, but remove the Ethereum crystal system entirely, and in its place put challenges that once completed unlock the tier upgrades for every perk, ability, or weapon class, and ammo mods. These challenges should resemble the pro perk challenges from Modern Warfare 2 and 3, but also make it so that they would take far more than just 2 games to complete, similar to the Dark Matter challenges in this game. The ultimate goals here are to get players to play more and get them to use all of these sandbox elements. So these challenges should also require you to actually use what you're upgrading. And this is, in my opinion, the greatest flaw with the system that we got, because it doesn't encourage the player to use all of these sandbox elements at their disposal, so they are less likely to try them all out. This in turn results in players only using a few, or maybe even only one special ability. It doesn't really apply to all other things, but personally I only use a few of these special abilities. I don't think I've ever used the Energy Blast one at all, or whatever it's called. And just so you see what I mean, I've created some examples. For the field upgrades, I decided to take Healing Aura as the example. The way that these challenges work is that the first challenge, you complete it, and then you get the first tier unlocked, then you get the next challenge, the second challenge. Once you complete that, you get the second tier unlocked, and so on and so forth. But for Healing Aura, the first tier challenge could be to heal yourself or teammates to full health 25 times, and the second tier challenge could be to do that 50 times. From here, we could use the added benefits from the first 2 tiers for the next challenges. The challenge to unlock the 3rd tier could be to knock down or stun 100 enemies. The 4th tier could be to revive 30 teammates, and then for the 5th and final tier, you could double that amount to 60 teammates. And honestly, the numbers in all these challenges don't matter at all. I'm not a game developer, so these might be a little too extreme or a little too easy. I'm not quite sure. But all that matters now is that the player is forced to use the ability in order to make it better. Now let's take a perk as an example. Say Deadshot Daiquiri. For the first tier challenge, you have to get 500 critical kills on normal enemies using the perk. For the second tier challenge, you have to get 50 critical kills on special or elite enemies using the perk. For the third tier challenge, you have to crack 1,000 armor damage on enemies using the perk. For the fourth tier challenge, you have to kill 200 enemies with hipfire using the perk. And for the fifth tier challenge, you have to kill 400 enemies with hipfire using the perk, so you essentially double it. All I'm doing with some of these challenges is going off of the added benefits that you get from unlocking tiers. So these challenges aren't that hard to come up with. I'm sure real game developers would come up with better ones. Now for the ammo mods, I decided to take brain rot as an example. The first tier challenge could be to have to turn 30 enemies. The second tier challenge could be to turn 60 zombies. The third tier could be to kill 100 zombies with a turned enemy. And for the fourth tier, that could be double to 200 zombies with a turn enemy. And then finally, the fifth tier challenge could be to turn 30 special enemies. And finally, we have weapon classes, and these are honestly probably the easiest ones because you could just have a challenge for headshots, long shots, close quarter kills, armor damage, and hipfire kills. One for every tier. But doesn't that already sound like a more fulfilling mode? Doesn't that sound like so much fun to make the tools that you take into a zombies game much better as you play more zombies and then you become more OP? With this system, every time a new perk or a new ability is added, there's more interest to play the game because you actually have to use the new thing to see it at its max potential or usefulness. Now, I will admit that this entire system is really contingent on the tier 5 upgrades actually being worthwhile and game changing, kind of like the death perception or meal kick perks. That's pretty important, or else this isn't going to work. But that's how I would do it. I believe that this system keeps the good parts from the old system, but changes it enough where it adds far more replayability to the game. And I think that this way, if it was implemented into the game, would keep people in the zombies community for the entire experience. Because I mean, what is enticing people right now at this current moment to keep playing zombies? Dark matter? I mean, most people that were going to go get that probably have that by now. Seasonal challenges? Well, you have to wait 10 levels for the next one. Easter eggs? Yeah, they're fun, but it gets sort of boring after a while. No, I think that Treyarch missed a huge opportunity here to make the system way more challenging and fulfilling.